Alright, welcome to Slasher Cinema as we are going to take a look at the top 5 kills from the original Halloween. My personal favorite when it comes to slasher movies. I think they are the most well done. And when it comes to not being tied up in court cases or just simply not being made at all, like Friday the 13th or A Nightmare on Elm Street, this is the one that's truly stood the test of time, coming out in 1978 with a mere budget of $300,000 to make this movie and went on to gross like 48 million, almost 50 million, 150 million in today's money. Absolutely insanity. And the way this original movie was done was simple. You didn't see really a lot of blood. You didn't see, it wasn't super gory. It was an atmospheric, creepy kind of movie. And they had some of the best characters we've ever seen in a horror movie, in my opinion. From Donald Pleasance to Laurie Strode, aka Jamie Lee Curtis, and pretty much everywhere in between. There was a lot of great characters here, man. And it was a very creepy environment. And the way they told the story, it was simple, but it was very well done. By the way, a quick note about Donald Pleasance, who, if you haven't seen his accolades for the movies he's done, it's incredible. But also, he was actually a World War II veteran, right? So he actually was with the RAF, and he flew 60 raids against the Axis. He was shot down in Agonville, captured and imprisoned in a German POW camp, and then he actually produced and acted for his fellow captives, and he was discharged in 1946. Incredible guy. He died in 1995, but his presence is still felt in the movies today. You know, in the newest Halloween movies where they rebooted the franchise, you can see there's I forget the actor that actually portrayed him and did his voice. He's still a huge part of this movie. In Halloween H2O, they did kind of the same thing, but I think that was actually his voice. But, you know, he's a huge part of this franchise, and I believe that he always will be. But getting back to today, we're going to talk about the top 5 kills in Halloween. Now, keep in mind, this is 1978. It's a different time. So what you may see today, if you're not familiar with the movie, or if you've never taken the time to watch it, is you're going to think, man, this is corny and blah, blah, blah. But if you don't appreciate, you know, what this movie started in Friday the 13th and some of the pretty much all of the slashers in the 80s, essentially, they all have to give credit back to Halloween, especially Friday the 13th. I think Sean S. Cunningham actually admitted that it was a Halloween knockoff, essentially. But regardless, man, this is an amazing movie, and we're going to look at the top 5 kills, starting with this one. So let's talk about my least favorite kill in the original Halloween. This is from our mechanic friend that works at Phelps Garage, and Dr. Loomis realizes that, hey, there's something weird going on with this truck over here, and he finds Michael's wardrobe that is pretty stylish, but Michael decided to ditch that for a mechanic suit. He's just into that kind of thing. So Dr. Loomis sees the rabbit in red matches from the car, so he knows that Michael Myers was here. And unfortunately, the only thing we have on this mechanic is that he works at Phelps Garage. I don't even think he's named in the actual movie, but this is a pretty iconic thing that Michael Myers wears in the mechanic suit, and there's not a lot of kills in the original Halloween anyways, so we don't have a lot to go on here. The only other thing I could put in its place is a dog, and I did not want to do that. So regardless, there's a little bit of blood here, but it looks like, as far as just looking it up, it looks like he was actually beaten to death. So this is our first kill, but trust me, it's going to get better than this. I think Annie is going to take it away from here.
Hey, jerk! Speed kills!
Let's just say Michael Myers don't play that shit, because speed is second in kills to the man himself. He gets a little pissed here, but he understands I need to be a little bit more tactical in my approach to knocking off these poor ladies here. So Annie is actually babysitting Lindsay Wallace for the night, but she wants to fornicate too.
Now why don't we not stand here talking about them and get down to doing them?
And so She has to meet up with Paul, but she's got to get rid of little Lindsay, and she knows that Lori will actually take on this responsibility so she can get her groove on.
The old Girl Scout comes through again.
Well, unfortunately, keys step in the way of her pursuit, and if she had those keys, well, she might have just been able to get in the car and go.
No keys.
But unfortunately, that gave Michael Myers enough time to get in the car. When he gets in the car, what's interesting is that the whole reason she went back to the house is to grab the keys because the door was locked. She comes back and instantly doesn't even go to put the key in. She just grabs the handle. The door pops open and she notices, man, it's kind of foggy in here. She kind of wipes the glass, and then that's where we get this. Old Michael Myers at it again, killing all of the hot women in Haddonfield. And he does this in a weird way, man. This kill, I appreciate it for the way it was set up, and it was kind of interesting, right? But the way he goes about it is weird because he starts choking her out, right? Using one hand, and then he realizes this isn't quick enough, takes the knife out, and all the way up, I'm okay with the kill up until this point. He slits her throat or something, but there's no blood, and she kind of gives a dumb look as she's falling on the window, and she lays on the horn. She had her eyes open, closed them, and opened again. I don't think that's the way that works. I think once you die, your eyes will close, presumably, or stay open, but they're not going to open, then close, voluntarily open again. I don't think that's how this works. Fortunately, I'm not dead. I don't know. But it looked like a voluntary movement at the end there where she just kind of opened her eyes back up to make it more dramatic or something. Yeah. Anyways, this is number 4. I am a fan of this kill and the setup. It's just the payoff is not the best. So here we are with Bob Sims, who is Linda's boyfriend. And Bob is another horny teenager in the world of Halloween. And after a little fornicating, they have a little dialogue back and forth, which basically goes like, want a beer?
Yeah.
Go get me a beer.
Be right back. Don't get dressed. Linda lights a cigarette and never inhales the thing. So then Bob goes downstairs to grab these beers. But then he grabs a jar of something. And this is when the back door actually opens unexpectedly. And he thinks,
Linda, you asshole.
So he originally said Annie and Paul, which makes kind of sense if you think your friends are playing a prank on you. But then he actually says Linda. But Linda came downstairs after she was joyously not smoking or inhaling her cigarette. And she just happened to sneak past you when you were grabbing a jar of pickles or something. I don't understand how he thinks Linda got in the mix here, but okay. But regardless, it's neither Linda nor Paul nor Annie playing a joke on you, my friend. It is the star of the show. Well, second star of the show, technically.
Come on now.
So I love the slow motion part of this, right? Well, not really slow motion, but where he kind of exaggerates what he's about to do, and then you finally see him come forward with the knife, and one swift stroke of the knife into his chest, and he's done, or into his stomach, actually. But the knife is big enough, because Michael Myers just likes big-ass knives. It's big enough where it goes through his entire body and holds him into that pantry door. And what I love about this kill the most is the head stare. It's something iconic that Michael Myers does. He admires his work, and it's interesting and creepy at the same time. It gives you a little bit of insight into Michael Myers, and tells you he's not all there. That's for sure. Then, of course, there's Mrs. Totally herself, Linda, who is totally about to die.
Totally.
So Linda is sitting in bed, not smoking her cigarette. Door opens and she sees Ghostface.
Michael!
Not that Ghostface. Michael Myers literally put a sheet over his head, cut out the eyes, and then wore the same glasses that Bob was wearing. It's actually kind of funny in a way. So this is a great part of the movie. And so she's kind of playful with it. It goes something like this. Well, did you get my beer, Bob? Cute, Bob. Real cute. See anything you like? What's the matter? Don't I get your ghost, Bob? All right, come on, where's my beer? Well, can't you answer me? Okay, well then don't answer me. Boy, are you weird. After talking basically to herself back and forth, she gets up, a little shitty, gets on the phone, says, I'm calling Lori. This is going nowhere. Well, in reality, you just slept with the guy, so it actually went all the way, to be quite honest with you. But it's not going the way she had planned after that. I guess the way their communication broke down after fornicating, she's really not happy about. But she makes the call just in time for Laurie Strode to hear what sounds like animal noises coming from the bedroom.
You about to get it on? Because I'm as hard as a diamond in an ice storm right now.
All right, Annie. First I get your famous chewing, now I get your famous squealing.
But in reality, it's her friend being choked out. So he wraps the cord, the telephone cord. Yes, we used to have telephone cords attached to our phones. And he wraps that around her neck and chokes her out. But what I love is at the end here, where he kind of picks up the phone, and it's almost like brother and sister talking for the first time. It's actually a pretty special and sweet moment, if you will. Of course, we don't know that they're brother and sister in this movie, but a little foresight there to tell you about Halloween 2, which is going to be even better, I think, as far as the kills than this one. And the number one kill from the top 5 kills from the original Halloween movie is the first one. So this is kind of a groundbreaking way to introduce your movie. So you have a first-person point of view here, which has been used before, but I believe this is the first time it's like really successfully done. And this is really gonna, and regardless, this movie is going to pave the way for 80s slashers that is about to ensue. The plethora, there are so many 80s slashers that come after this, seeing that you can take a really small budget and make it into a huge thing. This whole formula will be copied intensely, and Friday the 13th being probably the best example of it done right. But this first person perspective really gives them insight into the creepiness of Michael Myers. So when you get things like this, when you get things like the head turn, that kind of stuff, you see that we're dealing with a demented person here. So we see the Myers house, right? He walks up to it. We don't know whose lens we're actually looking through. So when I could just imagine being a teenager and going to the theaters for the first time to watch this, and if you haven't ever seen these movies, until you were older, and you're watching it in today's time and you didn't see it back then, I don't know how people can really go back and appreciate it for what it was, unless you just have a real appreciation for horror movies and 70s and 80s specific like slasher movies. But it really is special, man. It really is special. It gives this creepy vibe. And I love the way they open this movie. You see the Myers house, which will be a continuation all throughout this. Of course, John Carpenter did not want this movie to ever be made. He only wanted this movie to be made. He didn't want any other Halloweens to be made. But regardless, this is a great shot. So we see our pre-fornicators. And you got to remember, Michael Myers does not like these kids having sex. That is apparent right from the get-go. And he sees his sister, Judith Myers, and of course her boyfriend, about to get it on. And the definition of a quickie ensues. So we see a little hand come through the back door, and of course it's 1963 at this point, and that little hand goes to grab the biggest butcher knife I think I've ever seen in my life. He actually comes to the doorway, and you see the boyfriend come downstairs, and it's kind of funny. She's like, "Hey, you gonna call me tomorrow?" "Yeah, sure." You know, like probably already has another girl in the back of his head. Anyways, he slides his shirt on. Mikey walks upstairs. Mikey, you know, it's almost like she didn't take him trick-or-treating and wanted to have sex instead of taking care of him. What Halloween movie is that a reference from? Huh? A little backstory there. A little quiz for you. So he walks upstairs and grabs the clown mask, and in one swift action, like it's such a weird shot, he reaches down and kind of grabs it, and you can almost tell like the camera guy is kind of holding it, so it looks, I guess this is how it's done, because you can tell he kind of like reaches down, and in one swift motion, it's right on. So you see now the two eyes over the camera to again give that first person perspective. He walks in the room and he kind of looks at the bed in such disgust. That's what makes me think that she was supposed to take him trick-or-treating and didn't, because he looks at that bed in such disgust and he says, "Judith Myers," well, he doesn't say this, but essentially he makes Judith pay for her sins that night.
Michael!
After stabbing her 9 times, he walks quickly for Michael Myers out of the house where his parents are there to greet him. And do you see the scowl on her face? She's not happy. She doesn't even know what happened yet, but they just kind of stand back and in total disbelief. And like I said, this butcher knife is absolutely huge. It's almost bigger than this kid himself. This is truly an iconic way to open up this movie. This is an extension of that first kill. So you remember back earlier in the movie where the gravestone, the headstone of Judith Myers had been taken.
Yeah, Myers, Judith Myers. I remember her. Well, are you lost? Why do they do it? Goddamn kids.
Well, this is where we see it reappear. And this is where Laurie starts to discover that all of her friends have been brutally murdered. And it all starts with Annie in this one moment. It's kind of cool to see the creativity of Michael Myers in this way. Probably one of the more creative things that he actually does. It's not just slice and dice. He literally almost has a little bit of fun with this, where he places Judith Myers' headstone on the bed, Annie sprawled out. You got the pumpkin right to the left of her on that table. It's a very well done presentation to start all of this. And again, you're gonna see this kind of payoff in almost every slasher from here on out. You know, where the final girl will see all of her friends brutally murdered, and she will find them in creative ways. It all started with this movie. And this is another reason that I love this movie so much. There's also one more. It's not a kill, but it's where Michael Myers and Laurie is kind of, backed up into the corner. She doesn't know what to do. And then you see Michael Myers pitch black. You all of a sudden see that white mask come through. I absolutely love this like 10 to 15 minute part of the movie. It's fantastic. So the chase scene that we have with Michael Myers and Laurie is a really great part of this where, I mean, she gets a couple of good looks from the sewing needle in the neck to the clothes hanger in the eye, and then when Michael drops the knife, obviously she's able to get a stab in with the knife as well. I mean, she really tries her best to keep this guy off of her, and there's a lot of great moments in here. And of course, Dr. Loomis shoots Michael Myers 6 times. And of course, I couldn't include this as a top 5 kill, but I did want to mention that this is one of the highlights of this movie. You know, when Dr. Loomis goes to verify what he's done and Michael's body is gone, which is really interesting because John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, as far as I know, had the intentions of only making this one movie. So for them to leave that part in there, I don't know. It's almost like they kept it open-ended just in case they needed to make another movie. You know what I mean? But regardless, I didn't want to include that as a kill because it's not technically a kill because Michael Myers obviously still lives. But what a fantastic part of the movie. And it's so hard to believe looking back now with all of the broken continuity, if you can even call it continuity, in the Halloween series. What was intended to be a just one and done ended up into, 40 years worth of movies. And look at all the movies it spawned. And, from the continuity breakup with their brother and sister to whatever the hell happened in Halloween 3. And then you have 4, 5, 6, Halloween H2O, Resurrected. You have Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2, and then, of course, the remakes starting in 2018. It all started with this movie right here, a $300,000 simple budget movie. And I think that's what this one got right. It was simple. It was effective. Number 2 was okay. It was pretty good. But then number 4 actually had that same simplicity, although the mask, I do not understand why the mask had to be so different throughout all of these movies. It drives me nuts. Actually, I know why it happened in the second one. We might talk about more on that in the top 5 kills in Halloween 2, which is kind of a funny story, honestly. But, regardless, all of this started with this basic horror movie that was just done to perfection. They didn't try to overdo it. And even with Halloween movies today, you see too much of Michael. And I guess that whole element of surprise is gone, so it's kind of hard to, ever bring that back effectively, I would guess. His kills are way more brutal now. There's only 7 kills in this original movie, believe it or not. And so these are the 5 that I think are the best in the movie. And like I said, it's kind of cheating, but hopefully you enjoyed this one. And if you did, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit your notifications so you never miss a video from me. I will see you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.